Good morning. Good morning. All right, I want to be sure everybody's awake this morning. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful winter solstice. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the speakers who are with us today. Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, Arnold Randall, the General Superintendent of the Forest Preserves of Cook County, Dr. Kiran Joshi, Senior Medical Officer and co-leader of our Cook County Department of Public Health, Dr. Teresa Horton, Associate Professor of Research at Northwestern University's Department of Anthropology, and Amy Julian, a naturalist with the Forest Preserves of Cook County, who I'm told will be leading us on a nature therapy experience after the program. I'd also like to thank our sign language interpreters, Michael Albert and David Jones. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to Ted Lekowitz Woods. The land we're standing on, named after former Cook County Commissioner and father of General Counsel Laura Lekowitz Felicione, by the way, represents just a sliver of the nearly 70,000 acres of forest preserves in Cook County, the largest forest preserve district in the country. We're here to remind everyone that throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the forest preserves remain open for recreation. The preserves have kept its trails and outdoor spaces open. People come out for exercises, some for sunshine, others for a long walk in the woods. During these months, when we've been staying away from crowds and carefully navigating indoor spaces, the forest preserves have offered a place to enjoy ourselves in a manner conducive to safe physical distancing. And while we're spending much more time indoors, following public health guidelines, the preserves, most importantly, provide us with a place in nature. Whether you're an avid bird watcher or just someone who enjoys catching a glimpse of a chipmunk scurrying through the leaves, there is something therapeutic and fundamentally human about being in the natural world. Some folks call this feeling the result of outdorphins. I can personally attest to the respite these forest preserves provide, and I'm proud of this invaluable resource which remains available to all of us in this challenging year. And actually, yesterday I was out with my detail in 40 Acre Woods, which is near Swallow Cliff, for an hour walk, and it was beautiful. But as this new season begins, we cannot let our guard down. We cannot let our guard down. COVID-19 continues to be a public health threat, a threat that is as dangerous as ever, even more so with the resurgence of cases and record high positivity rates. And as you may have heard over the weekend, a more contagious strain of the virus seems to have emerged in Europe. I urge everyone to follow the guidelines set by the state of Illinois and our Cook County Department of Public Health to mitigate the spread of the virus. The first wave of vaccinations began this last week. I was at Stroger Hospital on Thursday to see our first healthcare professional, Tracy Everett, one of our emergency room nurses, get her vaccine. But in the meantime, we must stay vigilant and be prepared for what will undoubtedly be a tough, tough winter. But during the holiday break and in the months to come, remember the forest preserves. As we'll hear a bit more about in a minute, we must understand that our mental health is just as important as our physical health. Across Cook County, the preserves are a place to practice self-care, renew and rejuvenate your mind and body. But for those not familiar with the preserves in colder months, I want to relay that your experience in nature during a Cook County winter may be very different than when you came here in July. But not to worry, the forest preserve locations across Cook County offer activities that will get your heart rate up, from hiking to snowshoeing to sledding. And if it's a quiet vista you're looking for, we have those too. Just remember to bundle up. I'm from Minnesota. The message is always layers. The forest preserves belong to us all. I encourage everyone to find a preserve and to plan for outings in the snow or mindful self-care excursion. This time outside is going to be important as we continue our shared fight against the pandemic. Now I'd like to introduce the General Superintendent of the Forest Preserves, Arnold Randall, to provide a few more details about what's in store for you all this winter. Thank you. Go ahead, Arnold.
Thank you, President Preckwinkle. At the Forest Preserves of Cook County, we have worked hard during this pandemic to keep our locations open, always within the overarching priority of following the latest public health guidelines. I would like to take a moment to thank the Cook County Department of Public Health and Dr. Kiran Joshi, who is with us here today, for their information and partnership in this work. We have had unprecedented numbers of visitors to the Forest Preserve during this difficult and relentless time. Our volunteers have counted nearly twice as many people on trails, and our social media and website traffic has reached twice or even 3 times the usual rate. It is no surprise that the number of visitors drops in the preserves every year when winter arrives. That will be true as well to some extent this year. But I do want to remind everybody about how much we offer at this time of year at locations that can be found across Cook County. If you like winter sports or think it sounds like fun to try, you can go ice fishing at more than 20 lakes or ponds throughout the county. Or if you're interested in snowshoes or snowshoeing, I should say, we have free snowshoes available at 5 of our 6 nature centers. The only exception to that is Sagawau Environmental Learning Center, which is groomed for cross-country skiing. If sledding is more your speed, we have 9 sledding hills, including the one right behind you, has one of the more gentle slopes here at Ted Lekowitz Woods. When you arrived this morning at this site, you passed the 20-mile-long North Branch Trail system, which runs a chain through the Cook County Forest Preserves from LaBagh Woods here in Chicago, all the way up to the Chicago Botanic Garden in Glencoe. There are more than 350 miles of paved and unpaved trails in the Forest Preserves, running through woodlands, prairies, savannas, and more. You can bring out cross-country skis on these trails or go for a run. The trails are open for a quiet walk too, when you can get out and listen to the sound of the wind through the branches or wildlife foraging for food. You'll see a lot of deer in the Forest Preserves. When the leaves are off the trees, the preserves have a different look than they do in the spring or summer, especially when they're dusted with snow. It's very beautiful. We always recommend that you arrive prepared for your time in the preserves. This year, that means looking at our Forest Preserve website COVID-19 page to see the latest on any modifications we may have in place. For example, right now at our Nature Center buildings are closed, but the bathrooms are open. But the grounds and the trails are open at the Nature Centers. And our naturalist staff are on site, ready to answer questions you may have about our native plants and animals. In winter, you should also be ready to spend some time in the elements. Dress for the weather, starting with moisture-wicking layer base, and pay special attention to your hands, head, and feet. Bring water with you. With added layers and drier air, wintertime dehydration can happen easily. We all know this has been a tremendously difficult year, and that the next few months might be the most difficult part yet. Speaking for my staff and myself, we hope that the Forest Preserves can be a resource for you and your family this winter, for a fun afternoon or a bit of time alone for your thoughts. Or maybe even a fun story about the day you saw a bald eagle flying around. Thank you. I'd like to now turn it over to Dr. Kiran Joshi from the Cook County Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Superintendent Randall. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
It has obviously been an incredibly difficult year, but the COVID-19 vaccines we're seeing that are coming out now have given us some much needed light at the end of this long, dark tunnel. We know that these vaccines offer much hope, but we must also continue to follow the current public health mitigation guidance to stay safe. So we urge people to continue to mask, physically distance, and observe good hand hygiene. We also all deserve to go outside, get some fresh air, and enjoy the jewel, the gem that are the forest preserves of Cook County. Spending time outside in nature is always a great way to improve our health, wellness, and reduce stress. We know that winter can be incredibly tough on mental and physical health in a good year, but during a pandemic, it's doubly important to ensure plenty of physical activity to keep yourself healthy. Some of the many benefits of physical activity which you can engage in outside in the forest preserves, include lower blood pressure and anxiety, improved sleep, and higher levels of energy. The amount of time spent indoors in the winter and during this pandemic may have caused us to get little or no exposure to the sun. And this can put you at risk for lower levels of vitamin D. And by getting outside, you can get exposed to ultraviolet or UV rays from the sun, and this can stimulate the production of vitamin D in your skin. As you just heard from Superintendent Randall and Madam President, our beautiful forest preserves offer many, many programs this time of year, all of which can help you stay active and get some fresh, sometimes brisk air. Staying physically active is one of the best ways to keep your mind healthy and your body healthy as well. Physical activity can help you improve your mood and energy, and some of the benefits of physical activity on brain health occur immediately after a session of moderate to vigorous physical activity. Simply walking at least 30 minutes a day can have benefits such as reducing your risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, improving your blood pressure, blood sugar, and blood cholesterol levels, preventing weight gain, lowering the risk of obesity, and improving your mental well-being. The list goes on. The forest preserves can serve as your gateway to healthy and active living. While these facilities and areas can offer health benefits, it's important that you follow these steps, again, to protect yourselves and others from COVID-19. So once again, stay at least 6 feet away from people you don't live with, wear a mask, and wash your hands often or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Thank you. It's my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Terry Horton, who will provide additional information on the benefits of nature on mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, and thank you, President Preckwinkle and Superintendent Arnold. I am very pleased to be here in the Forest Preserves, where I have done some basic research. I'm an associate professor of research at Northwestern University, and my background is in both biology and anthropology. And the role that I play here is to say that the things that you have heard from President Preckwinkle, Superintendent Arnold, and Dr. Joshi hold for these forest preserves specifically, and that it's not just in your head. How many times have you heard from family members or someone, take a break? You know, you're tired, you're worn out, go get outside. Well, the thought is, that's just in your head. Well, having it in your head is having it in your body. And what we have found as, from many years of research is that this connection we have with nature is real. It comes in through our eyes, our ears, our sense of smell, and it influences our cognitive function. So it's not just in your head and how you feel. The science says it's real, and it can have really dramatic effects on your health and well-being. And one of the things that's been stressed here is the fact that the forest preserves are a place to come out and be physically active. And it's not just the physical activity. It's the peace that is here. It's the visual complexity that actually changes the way your brain functions. And so come on out and enjoy these woods. Do it in a socially distanced way, or I prefer actually physically distanced, because one of the beautiful things about here is that you can be with people, but you can be safe, you can wear your mask, you can have sufficient space. But we have breezes that are helping clear and blow the virus away. You can be safe. You can get the social connection. You can get the natural connection with the natural world that we as humans seem to need. And this goes down into a very deep physiological response. And I won't take any longer to talk about this other than to say that the work I've done here with the people at the Forest Preserves has shown that when you spend more time in the forest preserves doing physical activity, you get better outcomes for your mental health than the same amount of physical activity walking down a sidewalk or going to a gym. Come on out, and there's something extra, something special about being in nature when you get your physical activity. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Brandon Johnson, and I'll take questions afterwards if anybody has any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Brandon Johnson, Cook County Commissioner of the 1st District, and I am really pleased with how gracious this weather has been to us. I was sharing earlier, looks like Chicago could host Game 7 of the World Series. So we're going to take full advantage of the weather that has been presented. In fact, yesterday's weather was that much better, and I had a chance to take my 3 children out and connect with the forest preserves. And I know at the very least, because I was able to get my 3 kids out, that had Superintendent Randall, that probably saved my marriage for the next couple of weeks, for sure. So I'm recommending that if you want to save your family and preserve your relationships, that's what we're about here at the Forest Preserves. We save marriages and families. But I'm really grateful, honestly, for the leadership of President Preckwinkle and Superintendent Randall, our public health department. I was just really being reflective of how important it is that we make good political decisions today because of the impact that it will have on posterity. And I'm gracious and grateful for those that saw the foresight of making sure that Cook County had the ability to connect and maintain nature. And it's why it's so important that we continue to make strong political decisions so that future generations will also benefit from the decisions that we make. The last thing that I'll say is, has been said already, these have been very difficult and traumatic times for us. And we know that this pandemic has been especially harsh on districts like mine, where Black and brown folks have been overwhelmingly crushed and devastated by this deadly virus. And so I am strongly encouraging and recommending that during these very difficult, unprecedented times, that we take full advantage of the forest preserves. So I'm encouraging parents who have been stuffed in homes with their children through remote learning, educators who have been desperately trying to connect with their students again, encourage families to participate in all of the programs that are available. And then finally, once we enjoy these forest preserves over the next several months, I'm gracious that President Preckwinkle, like a true educator, has also given us our vocabulary word, which apparently is outdorphins. So you're going to have to learn how to spell that correctly and have examples to go with that. So thank you again. God bless you all.
Yeah, we want to commend Commissioner Johnson for taking his kids out. And your wife would really appreciate it. I know actually Arnold Randall was out with his older kids this weekend too in the preserve. So good. We practice what we preach. All right. What's the story?
I know we have Rachel from Sun Times on the line. Do you want to go first?
Hi,
Yeah.
Madam President.
Hey, good morning, Rachel.
Good morning. My only question is, earlier in the pandemic, some parking lots were closed at, I guess, maybe more popular, more crowded forest preserve locations. Do those closures remain in effect?
All right, Arnold Randall, the question is about parking lot closures, and do they remain in effect?
Thank you. This is Arnold Randall. So we have limited the amount of parking, for example, at Swallow Cliff out in the Palos area, but it is still open. And we are very nimble and flexible on how that works. So if we see that there are problems in specific areas, we will make adjustments to the parking lots. But all that information can be found on the Forest Preserve of Cook County's website on our COVID-19 page, and it's updated regularly to reflect what's open and what's not. Right now, everything is open as far as parking lots. If we see that there are problems with too many people gathering and we need to manage that, then we would certainly consider that. But right now, all of those parking lots are open.
Thank you.
All right, who's next, Nick? Is there anyone else on the line? All right, thank you. We're going to take text questions. picnic tables, Arnold.
Okay, again, this is Arnold Randall. We typically remove most of the picnic tables, if not all of them, during the winter anyway, so this is not related to COVID as much as it's related to our seasonal use of picnic tables. The groves are open. You can certainly come out and if you want to spend time out, but typically those things go away for the winter. We go and rehabilitate them and get them ready for the next year. So the groves are open, but the picnic tables, as per our normal process, are gone for the winter season. So since the pandemic began, some of the direction we've given to our law enforcement department, which is completely responsible for the day-to-day safety and security in the forest preserves, is really to just observe if people are gathering in unsafe numbers or you see people sort of flagrantly disregarding the rules about masking and physical distancing. And so we asked our officers as well as staff who are out there just to remind people what's expected. We've not had instances where we've had to ticket people, but certainly if there were a large gathering where people were flagrantly disregarding those things, we would address it as professionally as we could. But mostly, just to be frank, people have really been responsible and handled the rules the right way. And President Preckwinkle mentioned I was out on the trails yesterday with some of my children, and there were a lot of people out there, but they were all doing the right things. And so I think most people are happy that they have this available to them and will follow the rules.
All right, that it? Okay, thank you all for joining us. And now what's next?